So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the post-lunch session of the fourth day of the FDP by recent advances in biosimilars development. Now we have Dr. Satish Kumar this, to deliver a talk on applications of LCMS in biosimilar development. It's a brief introduction. Dr. Satish Kumar Nanjappan has done his PhD from Jadavpur University. Then he worked as an assistant professor in the Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis of NIPER Hyderabad. Now he is working as an associate professor in the Department of Natural Products at NIPER Kolkata. He has several publications, book chapters, and conference proceedings to his credit. He has given invited talks in several national and international conferences. His research interests include drug metabolism, pharmacokinetics, and drug transporters, where he is particularly interested in identifying the possible herb-drug and drug-drug interactions and metabolite profiling, and his expertise include LCMS analysis. He has won various awards like Indian Society of Mass Spectrometry Young Scientist Award, Associate Fellow of Telangana Academy of Science, IDMA Best Research Award in Pharmaceutical Analysis, and IDMA Young Pharmaceutical Analyst Award. He has also received the DST Startup Research Grant Scheme for Young Scientists, and he has awarded as a Senior Research Fellow funded by Dauber Research Foundation, and he is a member of various societies and committees, including Indian Society for Mass Spectrometry, International Society for the Study of Xenobiotics, and also a member of APTI. With this brief background, I invite Dr. Satish Kumar for his talk on applications of LCMS in biosimilar development. Over to you, Dr. Satish.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible? Good afternoon, Dr. Somu. Am I audible?
No, you are not audible.
Yes, I am audible. I hope so. Somebody
No.
has mentioned in the chat box. They have mentioned somebody. No, still it is like.
So is it audible to others? Hello?
Yeah, Dr. Somu, they are mentioned like, yes, it is okay like that. So I don't know whether now it is okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you
I
are
cannot
audible.
hear you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you once again. So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present the various applications in respected to biosimilar development. So again, Dr. Somasundaram, thank you for your kind introduction. So, like I will be like discussing some of the things like you can see like the advances in analytical techniques enables the scientists to extensive characterize the biological products to identify the potential difference between uh, which may affect the safety, purity, and efficacy of the biosimilar candidates when development of biosimilars, the clinical efficacy of the biological products as to be proven with the trials from the reference biological products. Therefore, the analytical techniques plays an important and key role on the molecular structure and biological function of molecules. Right. So that is the main focus. So particularly, I will be discussing about like the various proteomic approaches. So based on analytical tools that plays an important role for characterizing the biosimilars. So I will be discussing some of the various tools in respect to proteomics too. So I'll be sharing my slide. So can you able to see or not? Let me know. You can able to see my slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so again, thank you once again. So prior to that, so I'll be discussing like LC mass in biosimilar development. So particularly, I have mentioned the various uh, the proteomics tools for characterization of the biosimilars, right? So in this, like the first thing is I will be discussing about prior to that. So you should know some of the basics. So I will be going on the basic things I'm going to discuss today's presentation. So let me talk about first is what is proteome, right? So proteins is the proteins are the biological molecules made up of building blocks called amino acids. The proteins are essential to life with structural, metabolic, transport, immune, signaling, and regulatory function among the other roles. Right. So these are the important things. First, you should know what is proteome. So in this, the first thing is I would say that so the term proteomics was coined by the Australian PhD students Mark Wilkin in 1994 in a symposium held in Siena, Italy. So it is a blanket term that refers to all the proteins that can uh, the organism can express. So each species has its own unique proteome. So unlike genomics, the complete set of genes with each organism, the composition of proteome is in a constant state of flux over the time and throughout the organism, right? So therefore, when the scientist refers to the proteome, um, they are also sometimes refers to the proteome at the given point in time, such as embryo versus the mature organism. So, to the proteome of particular cell type or tissue within the organism. So this is the basic of prior to know that how the proteome terminology has been coined. So who behind this uh, coining this terminology. So you should know aware of all those things when we talk about the detail about the proteomics in different proteomics tools in biosimilars. So next we would be discussing about like proteomics. Prior to that, we discussed what is proteome. So now we are going to discuss about what is proteomics. So proteomics is the study of proteome, investigating how different proteins interact with each other and the roles they play within the organism. Right. So, like, although the protein expression can be inferred by studying the expression of mRNA, which is the middleman between gene and the protein, right? So, the mRNA expression level do not always correlate well with the protein expression level. Furthermore, we can say that the study of the mRNA does not consider the protein PTM modification, like post-translational modification, cleavage, complex formation, and localization, or many variant mRNA transcript that can be produced. All of which are like we can say like it are all key protein functions. So the first experiment that fit the label of proteomic study was performed in 1975 with the development of 2D protein electrophoresis. So like the first protein experiment already it has been done in 1975. So with the help of 2D protein electrophoresis. But however, truly you can say like how throughput identification of multiple proteins per sample only can be possible with the development of mass spec technology over the 20 years later. So initially it has been started in 1975, but it makes more possible like more characterization more the possible identification and characterization are possible only through the introduction of mass spec technology, right, for throughput identification. So since then you can say like sensitivity and accuracy of mass spec have advanced the point where the protein can be reliably detected down to the attomolar level. So that is the advantage we can say like in the attomolar level we can able to detect by the use of mass spec technology. So that is like one target protein molecules per 10 into the power 18 molecules. And the various other proteomic techniques have been developed and optimized also, but the mass spec has its own advantage when we talk about for the identification and characterization of the biomolecules or biomarker or proteomics tool. So in this, the next current slide, so like you can see the current slide now.
Yes, yes.
Oh, it is in slides are moving, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So the thing is like, so what are the key questions that proteomics can answer? So that you have to keep in mind. So we have discussed about the proteome, the proteomics, and the relevance to the mass spec technology. So how the advancement has happened. So from this tool, how we can able to give a key questions that proteomics can answer. So broadly speaking, like if you can think about the proteomics research provide a global view of the process underlying the healthy and disease cellular process at the protein level. To do this, each proteomics study typically focus on one or more of the following aspect of the target organism proteome at a time to slowly build on existing knowledge. So you can see here, so from the protein identification to protein quantification, protein localization, PTM, that is post-translational modification, functional proteomics, structural proteomics, and protein-protein interactions. So if you talk about the first point, like protein identification, so which the protein are normally expressed in a particular cell type that has been discussed right away that the tissue or the organism as a whole or which the protein are differentially expressed. So next we will move on to the protein quantification, like protein, the measurement, it is on steady state protein abundance as well as the investigation of the rate of protein turnover. How quickly the protein cycle being produced and undergoing the degradations. So this turnaround cycle over can be properly done. Quantification can be done by using these techniques. Then protein localization. Then if you look into this, the protein, the post-translational modification, like post-translational modification can affect the protein activation, localization, stability, interaction, and signal transduction among other protein characteristics, thereby adding a significant layer of biological complexity. So then next we will move to the functional proteomics. This is an area of proteomics is focused on identifying the biological functions of specific individual protein, like classes of protein, like for an example, it has been given as a kinase or whole protein interaction network. Then next one would be like structural proteomics. It is nothing but like structural studies yield important insight into the protein function, like druggability of protein targets of for drug discovery and the drug design. So next would be like protein PPI, protein-protein interaction. So investigation of how protein interact with each other, with protein interact and which, how and where they interact. All those details can be done so by using like proteomics approaches. So next we are move to the whole process, like different proteomics tools. What are the different proteomics tools are available? Like you can see, like from start you can see here left hand side, like from the biological sample side, then it is having tissue, body fluids and cells, how the sample has been processed, right? Then after that, by using different proteomics tools like flow cytometry, mass spec, protein microassay, 2G page, then CY-TOF. So all those different tools, how it will be helping to characterize and validate those methods. So how it can be produced like clinical relevance. So by using this different proteomics tools, so you can able to see like the database analysis, like from that we will get like protein assembly, then protein and peptide ID, then biomarker discovery by use of bioinformatics tools. It has been stated in the left hand side, like database analysis. Then once it is done, then it can be assessed by the candidate biomarker, because I would say that most of the common proteomics tool including mass spec. Then I mentioned like mass cytometry, then 2D page, flow cytometry, and protein array, right? Because of the expensive data, what it can be produced by the proteomics analysis, so it cannot be possible to do only in manual terms. So you have to use some sort of database analysis system, so that because you will be getting enormous data. So by the use of that, so by use of the bioinformatics tool is necessary for the analysis of hundreds of molecules, because the next analytical and clinical validation, also the last step, you can see in the left hand side, sorry, right hand side. So there, analytical validation that involves use of different methods like RT-PCR, immunological, ELISA, proteomics, what are the tools it is there. So validation can be done, then it can be forwarded to the biomarker performance like clinical validation, like diagnosis, prognosis, and disease monitoring, then forecast treatment. So this can be done. So I would say here is remaining many of the proteomics tools like flow cytometry, mass spec, then microarray, 2G page, then mass cytometry. Among this mass cytometry, you can say that it is next generation flow cytometry platform which utilize elemental mass spectrometry to detect metal conjugates, antibody that are bound intracellularly or extracellularly to antigen of interest in a single cell. So number of cellular parameters that can be simultaneously monitored by like conventional fluorescence flow cytometry assay is inherently limited by fluorophore emission spectra overlap. So in contrast, we can say like mass cytometry, however, accurately discriminate the metal isotopes of different atomic masses without channel overlapping. That is the advantage whenever we are using like mass cytometry tool for proteomic analysis. So next, like you can see like what are the different mass platform with common figures of merit. It can enables comprehensive protein characterization. So you can able to see the list in the left hand side, like contemporary mass platform like single quadrupole mass, then QTOF 3D ion trap, then linear ion trap, FTICR, then QTOF, then Arbitrap. So all those different contemporary mass platforms are available. So you can see like the different contemporary mass spec platform. You can see that can be used for the precursor ion mass selection, then selection of resolution, production in the ion mass, accuracy, linear dynamic range, MSN capabilities, then reaction conditioning accessible between the different stage of mass spectrometry, then mass efficiency, then automation by using high throughput. So this can be improved in proteomic instrumentation over the past 6 to 7 years in concomitant with the improvement of chromatographic, electrophoretic separation, and mass spec sensitivity and resolution have led to the more precise characterization of physiochemical features as well as the impurities in the biosimilar preparation. In particular, we can say mass spec based structural proteomic tools, whatever we have discussed like in the contemporary different mass spec platforms, are capable of performing rapid, parallel, and large-scale characterization of protein, and thereby we can defining the identity, quantity, structure, and function of biotherapeutics. So important tool that can fall under this category, you can say mainly mass spec coupled with various separation methodologies. We can say like chromatography, electrophoretic for protein identification and protein complex deconvolution. Label-free techniques for protein quantification and analysis for interaction kinetics, and also gel-based methods also available for impurity profiling. So these are the basic contemporary mass spec can be used for rapid performance that can be easily determined by defining the identity, quantity, and purity of the biotherapeutics. So moving on to the next slide, you can see uh, what are the roles of mass spec at different stages of the non-clinical part of the biosimilar. So different stages are there throughout the development of biosimilar. Mass spectrometry has different function at specific stages. You can see like characterization of the innovative product, then molecular genetic transfection, cloning and clone selection, the process development, scale up and production, the verification of biosimilar, and analytical comparability. You can see each different steps has its own specific function. The development starts with the detailed structural characterization of the innovative product, where the mass spectrometry already plays a crucial role. So you can see, according to like many regulatory bodies like European Union and US regulatory requirement, the amino acid sequence of a biosimilar product must be exactly same as the innovative product, right? Therefore, the determination of the amino acid sequence is the most critical part of the initial characterization. There, this high throughput mass spec tool plays a major important role. Like the complete structural characterization of the innovative product must serve as a starting point for shaping the quality target product profile, that is called QTPP, quality target product profile. So in which the specific quality range should be defined for the product under development. So the complementing this, one of the basic of risk assessment is also important to determine the critical quality attributes. That is called CQA. So that is those structural feature of the active substance that may influence its efficacy, safety, and immunogenicity profile. So in the later stages of the development, these characteristics should be monitored by different analytical techniques. So that's what I mentioned. So the different roles of mass spec at the different stages. So each and every stages care should be taken. So what are the quality target product profile and what are the important to determine the critical quality attributes? All those things can be structurally featured to the active substance that may influence the efficacy, safety, and immunogenicity profile uh, of the biotherapeutics. So there, this mass spec tool plays a major role. As I mentioned, throughout the things, without mass spec, we cannot able to do any of the high throughput uh, uh, analysis. So throughout my discussion would be like we will be more talking about the different mass spec technologies, how this mass spec in each and every step it will be useful for identification and characterization of the biotherapeutics. So now we have discussed more things about like what are the different, what is proteome and proteomics. So then different mass specs used in this biosimilar development, different mass spec technologies, different critical attributes, then quality target product profile, all those things. So now you have to know about the diversity of proteomics. So I would be giving it because this is the biosimilar workshops. I hope you might be aware of all those things because many of the speakers they have discussed about the definition. So as per the USFDA, as per the European Union, as per the WHO, what does biosimilar stands for? So again, it will be like the same thing I'm discussing again for your references. So this, as per the US FDA, I would say like biosimilar is a biological products that is highly similar to and has no clinically meaningful difference from an existing FDA approved reference product. So in terms of European Union, a biosimilar is a biological medicine highly similar to another already approved biological medicine. So according to WHO, similar biotherapeutic products, a biotherapeutic product that is similar in terms of quality, safety, and efficacy to an already licensed reference biotherapeutic product. The similarity among these regulatory agencies definition of the biosimilar can be distilled into two main themes. I would say, like based on US FDA, European Union, WHO, and other regulatory bodies like in India we have CDCSO. So biosimilar are not a generic and are like copies of already approved products that have been proven to be similar to the original product. That is, you can say, a reference product, right? So the biosimilars must possess the similarity in quality, safety, and efficacy to an approved biological product. So in that we can say it is like bio betters or bio superiors. So it is like it is an additional terminology which has often been used when we are discussing about the biosimilar. Again, to the term generic, these terms are not applicable to the biosimilar, as the word biosimilar is a regulatory terminology which has a specific shortened pathway for the approval. So the term biobetters or biosuperiors are not indicative of any regulatory pathway, but a marketing terminology for classification of new or second generation products. So typically we can say these biobetter molecules may be similar to the currently approved product, but the molecules are usually altered to improve the attributes such as dosing regimen, safety, efficacy, or immunogenicity. Because of these significant biological entities and would follow the standard approval pathway set by the regulatory agencies, not a biosimilar pathways. Right. So these are some of the diversity of biosimilars. I would say that this will be useful. So next would be going again. This is again the similar slide. So throughout this workshop, I hope you might be listening all those things like what is the biosimilars. So the reference biosimilar development time and cost, then biosimilar development time and cost, all those things. But again, it is repetitive, but I have to include in the sense for the continuity, and you should know again. So difference between what are the different biosimilars approaches for the regulatory pathway, then reference biological development timeline and cost. You can see here it is like from discovery to phase 3, how much cost involved in the reference biological development phase. Then again you can see the bottom biosimilar development timeline and the cost. So about 100 to 200 million, right, based on the time goes, right? So this is the picture how from discovery to the different phases, so how the biosimilar development will move with timeline and the cost. So next would be like we have discussed in somewhere else, we have discussed about the critical quality attributes. So again it is coming, it is a quality by design approach. So this is a physical, chemical, biological, or microbiological property or characteristics that should be within the appropriate limit, range, or distribution to ensure the desired product quality. So nothing but you can say that is called critical quality attributes. So if you come into the quality by design approach, it is a systematic approach to develop that begins with predefined objective and emphasize the product and process understanding and process control based on sound science and quality risk management. Right. So based on this quality by design, So we can able to, whenever we are doing a high throughput analysis, so we can correlate with the proteomics analytical data. So there we can easily identify, so what are the real critical quality attributes. So from that, so this will help us the real critical quality attributes and how we have to solve our problem in the time of like analytical identification and characterization of the biotherapeutics. So in this, the process development to analytical similarity evolution, you can see here it is in the right hand side, like selection of quality attributes, then criticality in assessment and ranking, then tier assessment, then statistical analysis plan and similarity assessment, then refinement. All those processes are involved for identification of the critical quality attributes in terms of like biotherapeutic approach. Not only this quality by design approach in the proteomics level, basic analytical techniques like method development, there also we can use. So we can use for the efficient method development process. It can be reduced like the trials. By using this tool, we can reduce a number of trials directly based on the permutation combination by different parameters and the variables. We can be able to get the definite method, so that can be used for the real-time analysis, so that we can minimize uh, uh, the whatever the time we are putting onto trial. So this is the advantageous one by based on the quality by design approach. So next we are going to the real structural characterization of biologicals. So you can able to see here the basic mass workflow of protein characterization. So you can see like from here mass spectrometry, then chromatographic electrophoretic separation, then enzymatic treatment, then biotherapeutics, maps. Right from it starts with here. So biotherapeutics maps are the proteins that can be enzymatically treated. Then further, those particular samples has been transferred to the chromatographic or electrophoretic separation techniques, so that there the real-time analysis will take place for identification, characterization of the particular biotherapeutics. So there again, by use of mass spec, you can see like the mass spec, then further fragmentation, then again picking, database matching, then the fingerprinting will be done, right? So the characterization begins by the proteomics digestion, as I mentioned right now, of the therapeutic protein, followed by the different steps of chromatographic separation of the compounds. Then it will go to the mass spec one, the overall, the picture, if you can see of any possibility of variation or modification in the protein, the structure that can be transferred to mass spectrometry. Two is acquired after subjecting the peptides to different fragmentation using novel functionalities attached to the mass spectrometry, such as the electron capture dissociation, CID, that is collision-induced dissociation. So then further it can be done like database search that can acquire spectrum facilities in delivering the protein fingerprinting. The input for the thing is like the overall the schematic workflow has been given for the protein characterization. So the mass spec, I would say that gained the prominence in protein characterization with the development of soft ionization techniques such as electrospray ionization, right? So and MALDI also it is there, like matrix assisted laser desorption ionization techniques. So these tools made as like a mass spectrometry amenable to analyze a large biomolecules, which was limited to the similar compounds due to its difficulty in transferring the farmer into the charged gaseous phase. Though the MALDI is suited for protein characterization, that associated constraints with regard to the analysis of complex protein flexibility and charge state procedure by the MALDI makes electrospray ionization a more advantageous tool for the characterization of biotherapeutics. So these are the tools. So these are the different steps for characterization of biologicals. So moving on to the next slide. So there we will be discussing about the different approaches for analysis of proteins or proteomes. So here you can see like the top down and bottom up approaches. So the difference between top down proteomics versus bottom up proteomics. So you can see here like left hand side for top down approaches, the cell or tissues, then protein extraction is there, then protein extraction followed by protein separation, then mass detection and analysis and data analysis. That is for top-down approach. If you look into right-hand side bottom-up approach, you can see cells, then protein extraction and protein digestion is there. So if you see in top-down approach, that digestion part it is not there. So here in bottom-up approach, protein digestion, then after that peptide generation, then followed by the mass detection and analysis, then data analysis. Right. So you can see in top-down proteomics, the protein in a sample of interest are first separated and being individually characterized. But if you look into the bottom-up approach, in the proteomics is also called as shotgun proteomics. All the proteins in the samples are first digested into the complex mixture of peptides, and these peptides are then analyzed to identify which proteins were present in the sample. So these are the some of the differences. So you can see apart from that, you can see the table from less structural information to detailed structural information. You can see the last fourth one, the top-down proteomics. So here what it will be there is like peptide size can be analyzed like more than 15 Dalton, kilodalton, right? So it give an information like elemental composition and the nature of modification confirmation. So in this approach, then if you move on to the third one, like a middle down approach, it can be the peptide set can be 7 to 15. So here the future is like more complex sequencing confirmation, nature and localization of more modification futures can be done by using middle down approach. Then second one would be extended bottom up proteomics approach. Here the peptide size would be around 3 to 7. So near complete sequencing confirmation can be done by using this extended bottom up proteomic approach. The nature and location of the modification, disulfide linkage and glycosylation profiling also can be done by using extended bottom up proteomic approach. The first one you can see here is bottom up approach. It also called as shotgun proteomic approach. You can see the protein size, peptide size can be analyzed by this bottom up proteomic is 0.623. Then more than 99% the sequence confirmation, almost complete protein fingerprinting can be done by using this shotgun proteomic approach that is called as bottom up approach. So in meanwhile, so majority of the times we will be discussing about like top down and bottom up approach. So in recently like middle down approaches also there, we have discussed some of the features like peptide size, then some of the features. So middle down approach, this approach is an emerging one which has a potential for successful application in future for study of isolated or purified protein as well as the proteomics. It has been diverse and introduced recently because of the merits and demerits experienced in the bottom-up and top-down approach. Thus, we can say the futures of bottom-up and top-down approach has been combined in an appropriate manner with the objective to arrive an optimum condition that can constitute the middle-down approach. This implies we can say this is an approach also would involve in the study of truncated peptides, like instead of, we can say, intact proteins, right? So obtained by a proteolysis or chemical degradation steps, or with which is characterized by bottom-up approach, but the size of the resulting peptide would be greater than the one that are usually encountered in the bottom-up approach. So in view, we can say that whenever we are discussing this kind of like a different analysis approaches, so in view, we can say various biotech industries and many other academic research have strived over the last 2 decades to create methodologies and platform that can deliver comprehensive analytical data that can enable the characterization of various facets of primary structures to enable primary structures to establish equivalence with the innovator. So these are some of the tools. So majorly like bottom up approach, that is called shotgun proteomic analysis. So majorly it is used because there we can get more than 99% sequencing confirmation, almost complete protein fingerprinting. Right. So moving on to the next two, like different stages we are discussing about. First, we have discussed about the different approaches for the analysis of protein. Then once it is done, like we are moving on to the peptide mapping. The peptide mapping is by far the most commonly used technique for comprehensively cataloging of any differences that may be present in the primary structure level in a biotherapeutic uh, product. So these techniques, we can say it is used for the preliminary screening of batch to batch variation during the bioprocess development. Uh, the constant evolution of proteomics, we can say the instrumentation has advanced the technique of peptide mapping considerably. As an example, we can say the data independent acquisition, the reverse phase peptide mapping approach has been proposed with an alternate low and elevated collision energy scanning. So to investigate the difference between the protein sequencing between a biosimilar candidate and also corresponding to the innovator product. This approach allowed for identification of a mutation in a heavy chain of the biosimilars. The observed difference, we can say that according to the published article, it has been mentioned that it could attribute to the inconsistent integrity of expression of clone, which is corrected at an early stage of biosimilar product development. And it could significantly reduce the chance of product failure based on these approaches, right? So I would say that these techniques have different approaches, like digestion. If you see the left hand side, so from digestion of proteins, then the protein digestion by step, like denature protein, then alkylate, quench, trypsin digestion, then lower digestion at the pH to halt the trypsin activity. So these are some of the different steps. So how this peptide mapping can be used efficiently in the product development of biotherapeutics, right? So this is, however, we can say it can be proposed the more efficient the steps that can allow accurately for quantification over the wide range, dynamic range. So next we are going to another steps, like the tool, we can say the native mass spectrometry based the structural characterization. So you can see here it is native mass spec is increasingly being used in probing structural biological of therapeutic drugs, including complex monoclonal antibody conjugates targeting multiple molecular targets or mechanism of action. This native mass spec based structural characterization. It can be done because like low sampling requirement with the ability to monitor the dynamics and the subpopulation in the sample, the being probed into the characteristic future of the native mass spec that overcome the limitation of the traditional tools, we can say, like X-rays and NMR, which required flexible parts of protein to be removed for the analysis. So since the native mass spec based structural characterization as a key objective of biosimilar characterization is to determine any structural changes that impact the clinical performance of the drug. It is of prime, we can say, the importance that the analytical techniques and used for the retention of dynamism of the molecule. So this is nothing but like by using these things, functional native conformation without damaging their covalent and non-covalent interaction. That is the prime advantages of using this native mass spec based structural characterization steps. So this will be without damaging their covalent and non-covalent interaction, which makes these measurements more promising, we can say. So while apart from that, it is electrospray ionization technique coupled with QTOF continues to be used as an intact mass measurement for the use of new versions. Like again, this would be some of the things will be repetitive of mass spec technologies like electrospray, QTOF, then Orbitrap. So all those mass spec tools have allowed the biosimilar characterization workflow with multi-fold enhanced resolution that have enabled the identification of multiple co-occurring post-translational modification and other modification. So next we are moving to the other tool, ion mobility mass spec, that is based on the structural characterization. So this is the prerequisite to obtain the optimal ionization for efficient analysis. The biggest concern when we perform the protein analysis in any mass spec platform is to retain a solution phase structure in gas phase, right? So the several researchers have reported the occurrence of changes in protein structure upon transition from solution into ionized gas phase. So this technique allows an advantages of ion mobility spectroscopy to mass spec offer an attractive solution. So to this problem, like by allowing the separation of ions, so it can be able to distinguish like isomer, isobar, and conformer that have an identical elemental composition but different only in their structural arrangement based on differential mobility. The larger molecules have higher collisions cross-sectional than these small molecules. Thereby, we can say it can be transferred into different times in chamber filled with inert gas under the influence of electric field. So in this, I would say these are the advantages by allowing the separation of ions into isomers, isobars, and conformers. So they have like includes the three instrumentation part, like the drip tubes, the different mobility analyzer, then traveling wave type instruments. So ion mobility even more attractive if it is in the possibility of coupling with the multiple modes versions such as like time of flight, linear quadrupole, then trapping devices such as FTIR, Fourier transformer ion cyclotron resonance, and magnetic sector spectrometer. Thereby, it can harnessing the advantage of each and adapting the analysis according to the need or questions to be answered. So this would be advantageous when we have like mm, the solutions where we have some options that we have a difficulty. This kind of transition is not happening in other mass spec. By using this ion mobility mass spec, this can be the separation can be enhanced so that we won't face any difficulties for the identification and characterization of biotherapeutics. So next, another important thing is like a glycolation analysis. You can see in left hand side, like more than 100 biotechnological products have been approved. So glycolation is the main thing. So why do we need a glycolation analysis and control system for the manufacturing glycoprotein products? So that is a huge the task when we talk about like identification and characterization by whichever may be the technique. So we used to face lot of criticality at the time of characterization, all those things. By means of we can say advancements in the many analytical tools, it makes somewhat easier. But the thing is like detectability, then based on the nature of the structure's complexity, then site specificity of glycolation, heterogeneity, then compatibility requirement, then optimization of those particular analysis, then how it can be characterized. So how much skill is required for the analysis, how much prediction we can do for identifying all those parameters, whichever like critical quality attributes and complement dependent cytotoxicity, then antibody dependent cellular cytotoxicity, because all those things it will influence on the biological activity. So majorly you have to accept that like glycolation is well accepted as a critical quality attribute due to its the influence on the biological activity such as efficacy, stability, then immunogenicity and bioavailability, all those things it will be modified. From the perspective, I would say that of the biosimilar development, it is not even a possible to have an identical glycolation profile as an innovator product. So it will be very difficult. However, the profiles need to be similar, and the regulatory approvals requires that the difference to be justified with regard to the clinical impact. So whenever we are working on the glycolation critical quality attributes, these points should be keep in mind. So these consideration underscore the necessity of monitoring the glycolation pattern for biotherapeutics during all stages of manufacturing processes. So like we can say desirable product quality, batch to batch, consistency, then product stability, how we can achieve, because throughout the process, so we have to keep in mind throughout the process and throughout the stages that the monitoring the glycolation pattern is very crucial for the analysis, right? So if we can add up some of the things like by using like I would say different mass spec associates like the complete structural elucidation of glycans requires the determination of sugar composition, then sugar sequence, then monosaccharide branching, then linkages, anomaly configurations, then leveraging on the improvement of fragmentation techniques. So that's what we would say like researchers have combined the multiple techniques to put together like collision induced dissociation, then electron transfer dissociation, then CID, then so that we can able to get the information about the sites of glycolation modification as well as the sequence of the peptide fragments. These different mechanism attributed to like the collision induced dissociation and electron transfer dissociation for the fragment generation provide a complementary structure information, and thereby we can enhance the confidence in assigning the structural heterogeneity. Right. So next we will be moving on to the assessment of higher order structures. So this you can see like it will be a determination of protein conformation is an important component of comparability studies for biosimilar, particularly in instance where conformational changes occur without any changes in the primary structure sequence. Often these changes are triggered by initiating of degradation pathways that render the protein immunogenic by aggregate formation. So these changes or modification can be or alteration at the primary level of the protein can be detected or characterized by using mass spec different tandem mass spec approaches, right? So however we can say that for assessing these changes like assessment of higher order structure changes that results due to the degradation of protein, as I mentioned before, of the proteins required probing of higher order structures. So for this, we would say that we can add pairing with hydrogen or deuterium exchange is being adopted in the industry. If you see the latest publication and usage of this technique, so it has been incorporated like pairing of hydrogen deuterium exchange. Um, in the industry with a high degree of success as it's been instrumental in providing detailed insights of PTM like post-translational modification and conformational changes and more importantly in comparativity studies of biosimilar and innovators. So it has its greatest advantages in terms of assessment of higher order structures. So, and also we would say that this technique can be based on the differential uptake of the deuterium in exchange of proton or hydrogen by the different conformation of biomolecules. That is called like pairing with hydrogen deuterium exchange. SDX is adapted for this kind of assessment of higher order structures. So mainly like this is a part we can say that HDX mass spec also used for epitope mapping of protein therapeutics. So notably this HDX that hydrogen and deuterium exchange mass spec is also particularly for the biosimilar development, including examining the effect of the different types of glycolation on maps, conformation, and protein receptor binding, conformation characterization of the changes, charged variant in monoclonal antibodies, and also we can correlate with the developing the correlation between stress-induced chemical modification and confirmation of protein therapeutics. So this application of HDX is continuing to be adapted for more areas of biotherapeutic analysis. So this is some of the advantages we can include the pairing with HDX so that we can able to uh, get the better detectability or the characterization, and we can able to do the comparability studies of the biosimilars and the innovators, right? So next we are going to the assessment of host cell protein. So you can see like the right hand side, sorry, not right hand side, left hand side. So the clone selection, then media optimization, bioreactor control, then fermenter, then processed by the expression system. Thereafter that it can be moved to the like downstreaming processes. It's involved in three steps. We would say like mass spec based on the initial processing, then it can be transferred to the process sample can be processed for the mass spec. Then there the profiling proteomics based host cell profiling can be done based on the downstream processing like ELISA based HCP profiling. Then gel electrophoresis based HCP profiling is available. Then mass spec based proteomics HCP profiling. So if you can able to look into this, the complexity of the process that are used to manufacture the protein therapeutics along with the raw materials that they use the results in co-purification of some of the host cell proteins that bear the close resemblance to the protein of interest. Broadly, we can say that there are three platforms I have mentioned, like for the HCP, whole cell protein assessment. So, ELISA-based methodology is available, help in quantification, or sorry, quantifying the amount of HCP present, but do not provide detail about the unidentified or unwanted protein. So ELISA we can do, but the disadvantage of using for the identification in the whole HCP assessment is like it won't give or it won't provide the details about the identity of the unwanted protein, right? So that is the disadvantages. So if you move into the next techniques, gel electrophoresis based HCP, we can say it have a higher coverage than the ELISA, but lower, it has lower dynamic range. So the third one is like mass spec based HCP profiling. So mass spec based proteomic platform enables the detail of characterization, as I mentioned earlier also, for the biotherapeutics. How it can be done is like both qualitatively and quantitatively with the use of like high and wide dynamic ranges. So that gives much higher than the other two platforms. So that is the advantage. So these are some of the recent things. So how we can assess the HCP. So different techniques are available. Among those, the mass spec based proteomics HCP based assessment is would be more useful for not only for quantification, qualitative also we can do, quantitation also we can do with the wide dynamic range. So that is an advantageous. So I'm not going to describe more about what is host cell protein, so how it can be separated, so what are the like impurities when it is we are processing, how it can be removed in the early stages. That all those steps I'm not going to discuss, but I would emphasize on what are the different techniques. So like ELISA, gel, and mass spec based HCP profiling. Among these, each technique has its own advantages and disadvantages. But if you look into the wide range, like wide dynamic range, mass spec has its major advantages that can be used for detailed characterization of biologicals in terms of both qualitative as well as quantitative. So next would be like we'll be discussing about the biosimilar development chain. So this is again it will be repetitive with many of the speakers they would have discussed, but I would say some of the important things in this, because what from defined target to manufacturing process from start to end. So what are the different development processes? In the different development processes, what are the major critical quality attributes? So what are the different techniques? So based on the different techniques, what kind of like information we would be getting, like it is based on the physical chemical characterization or biological characterization. So different techniques as its own the processes you can see left hand side like cellular and animal bioassay, ligand based receptor binding assay, then biolayer interferometry, BLI, that is called BLI, label free technology for measuring biomolecular interactions. It is a, we can say like it is an optical analytical technique that can analyze the interference pattern of white light reflected from the two surfaces. We would say that a layer of immobilized protein on the biosensor tip and an internal reference layer. So this another thing is like SPR, like surface plasmon resonance technology, and also being used for antibody characterization and quantification. So based on this, we would say like the each chain development chain have its highlighting the functional characterization. The functional characterization is the routinely undertaken in the drug discovery processes for the measurement of consistency between the batch of drug produced and to establish the equivalency that is more important between the biosimilar and the corresponding innovator product, right? So these are the cell-based assays and the most commonly used platform for potency assessment like in vitro binding assays, then use of label-free techniques like surface plasma resonance and bilayer interferometry. These two techniques are gaining more popularity, like because of the allow the detection, monitoring, and characterization of biomolecular interactions. So we would say that the ability to couple with SPR like surface plasmon resonance with the mass spec gives the probability like of proteomic based functional characterization studies for biotherapeutics. So in manufacturing process, we can say like compatibility, steady stability, then preclinical and clinical. So many different stages. So in different stages, how we can able to use this mass spec technologies for the efficient characterization of the biotherapeutics. So this would be like the combination. It can be give like a different proteomics tools. That is the characterization of biotherapeutics using uh, the proteomics tools. Like different tools are available. Like as I discussed, different mass spec approaches are there. So how we can go about, then how we can able to get the predictive analysis report by using different mass spec tool. Like I have mentioned, like LC mass, then MALGI, then different approaches are there, right? Then capillary electrophoresis, then the last one you can see the higher order, you can see like HDX mass spec. So all it's have its own advantages and disadvantages, but these are the bunch of mass spec technologies are available based on the need of analysis. So we can choose the specific techniques for identification and characterization. So this is again like the continuation of the previous slide. So it is how I have mentioned, like it's its own advantages in terms of like characterization and post translation modification, different profilings like whole cell profiling, glycolation. So different technologies are available coupled with the different mass analyzers that made that made more advantages for identification and characterization. So next is like the most commonly used software packages for quantitative proteomics. So you can see like different categories, name and descriptions are available, are quoted in this present slide. So different tools are available commonly, like you can see like it has been categorized into three category. One you can see like label based, label free and integrated platform. So in the label based platform we have n number of tools: Isobar, eye tracker, Libra, MaxQuant, then protein pilot, then Express, PView, then Proteome Discoverer. All it's have its own advantages. Then if you look into label-free approaches, so there we have a platform of EMPI, then Mascot, then Max Viper. Then if you talk about the integrated platforms, so OpenMS is there, Peak Studio X, then Skyline. So the right hand side, the description of each tool has been mentioned here. So, so I will share all those information. I'm not going into the detail of each platform, how it can be helpful for the quantitative proteomics analysis. Right. So moving on to the next slide, like the computational tools based on like different approaches, what we have discussed in a couple of slides back. So bottom up approach, top down approach, and middle down approach. You can able to see here in this. So the mixing of all together approaches we can use like X tandem, then mascot. That is for, it is common for all the approaches. Particularly if you see for the specific to bottom up approach, Phoenix is there, then Morpheus, Peaks, and MaxQuant computational tools are available. Then left hand side you can see top down approach, Topic, MS Pathfinder, then ProSite, TopFind, all those computational tools are available. Then middle down approach is Zydia is there, right? So these are some of the different computational tools in terms of proteomics approaches. We can use all those things, and we can use for the predictive analysis for identification and characterization. So I would say that, so I summarize the tools, whatever we have discussed in the various analytical approaches. So proteomics, I would say it is an indispensable tool for the characterization of biosimilar, right? So the expansion of biosimilar market made worldwide primarily depends on the addition of more or sophisticated platform to the analytical armory that can be exploited for the characterization of biologicals. So based on this development, like the outlined in my presentation, we can say that mass spec based proteomic approaches are and will continue to be a significant enabler in this approaches. Why? Because we can say that the tool has been successfully used for qualitative as well as quantitative measurement of protein structures and function, so that we can make like obtain a complete fingerprint of the biotherapeutics, right? So that will be useful for the clinical safety and efficacy. So that's all from my side. Yeah, thank you so much for your patience. So thank you, sir, Dr. Shomu, for giving this opportunity to present the in-depth of the proteomics tools in terms of the biosimilar characterization. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Satish. Is it audible?
Yes, Dr. Shomu, it is audible.
Thank you. Thank you.